Namaste! My name is Kate, your local yoga teacher and studio owner based in Iloilo City, Philippines, and welcome to another episode of the Ilongga Yogi Podcast. I usually share content on yoga, mindfulness, fitness, mental health, and wellness through self-care. Today, I'll be talking about how to start journaling and how to manifest your goals to reality through journaling. So I shared a story recently on the studio's Instagram and Facebook account, and I asked my students if they had any question that they wanted to ask their yoga teacher, what would it be? And surprisingly, one of them asked about journaling, how to start journaling and all about journaling. And so it was kind of my plan anyway to talk about that for this podcast. So that just reassured me that that was a good topic to go with. And so I know that journaling in the rest of the world, especially in the US, is already very popular. Almost everyone does it. And especially those who are interested in like self-growth and self-help. But in the Philippines and in Iloilo particularly, especially for my community, not many people get it yet, or not many people actually journal. And I hope that through this podcast episode, people will start to realize its power and how it can actually be used as a tool to help you manifest your goals, help you live the life that you have always dreamed of living. And so I'll be going through a few things. One, I'll start with just sharing with you guys what journaling is, and then moving on to why we should journal, how we can journal, and then how to manifest goals through journaling. This is all based on my experience too, and I did a little bit of research, but not too much, just because I want to keep it very simple for all of you. So hopefully, again, the goal by the end of this episode is that you have a better understanding of journaling and that you can actually start your journey of journaling as well. So let's get to it. Earlier, while I was kind of preparing the script for this and preparing this podcast and everything, I came across a website, the lonewolf.com. And what I like about their definition of journaling is this: the practice of writing your thoughts and feelings for the purpose of self-analysis, self-discovery, and self-reflection. So the thing about journaling is that typically, we see it as writing with words, but you can do it in many ways too. There are many forms of journaling too. Again, as long as you're writing your thoughts and feelings, or you're writing down or putting into paper your thoughts and feelings for the purpose of self-analysis, self-discovery, self-reflection. So it could even be in the form of drawing or painting if you're more of an artist. Maybe it's listing or bullet journaling if you don't have that much time and you don't like flowery words. And even this may not be counted as journaling, as a form of journaling, but I also know, and sometimes for me even, there are moments when I'm not really into writing and I don't want to sit down and write. So you can also video yourself, just talking and like just sharing all your thoughts and emotions, even though you're not really talking to anyone. And it can even be through audio too, like recording yourself like I am right now, just recording yourself on a phone or on any device that you have, just so that you're able to release what you are feeling and what you're thinking. And it's not just stuck in you. It's not stuck in your mind or stuck in your body. To me, journaling is a tool that I use to manage my mental health, period. That's why I started, and that's why I keep doing it until today. I journal to basically dump my thoughts and to process emotions that will otherwise be stuck in my system. Journaling has always been a part of my life. Since I was little, I can even vividly remember how in the past, I was around, I think I was in the first grade, or all I know is I was really young. And at that time, I remember I would move a lot. There were times when I would move to the US to be with my mom, and then I would move back to the Philippines to be with my cousins and my family here, just because it was easier for my mom as a single mom to be taken care of by her sisters and her brothers and all of that. So during that time in my life where I kept moving back and forth, and when I felt really lonely or confused or a little lost, or like I didn't understand what I was feeling and going through, I always turned to journaling. And maybe you could say at that time I still referred to it as a diary, but it was the same concept. Every time I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to, or I couldn't share what I was feeling and going through with anyone else, I would just write it down. And that has always been my go-to ever since. I was always left alone with my thoughts, and I always didn't have anyone to talk to. So journaling or writing in my diary was such a huge help for me to feel just a little less alone and to kind of process and understand my thoughts and my emotions a little better. This time around, though, it has matured, and now it's more like a planner where I set goals usually, or list what I want to manifest, or jot down what I need to work on as a daily reminder, and most importantly, as a release of what I'm going through. So why should we journal? Again, I did a little bit of research before this episode, and I came across thedailystoic.com. And what I love about this quote that I found on that website is that it exactly represents how I feel about journaling. And I hope that you can eventually relate to this too. So this quote by John Dewey, an American philosopher, psychologist, and an educational reformer. That was a lot for, it was a mouthful. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. I'll repeat that one more time. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Journaling can help process traumas and stressful events. Otherwise, we would just go on with life and still have all those feelings and emotions just in us, never having the chance to see the light of day again. But the thing is, it won't just disappear. It's just kind of buried under everything else. And that's why suddenly you have people in your life, or even you probably just burst out of tears and just so much emotion, and sometimes we don't know where it's coming from. Why are we feeling that way? And it's because of that. There are so many unprocessed traumas and emotions that we need to process, and usually journaling, I find, is one of the most accessible ways to do it, because you don't have to pay anyone to help you journal. It's more of a personal thing. You don't need anyone to be there with you, unlike going to therapy. So journaling is readily available. You just need a piece of paper, a pen, and a little bit of time, and then write. For me, I see it as a way to cultivate a sense of awareness of ourselves, especially our emotional state and our mental state. It encourages us to think clearer and, in turn, communicate clearer as well. And journaling has been proven by research to decrease emotional distress and is a very accessible grounding tool to do daily. So how can you journal? Journaling, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, can be done in many different ways, and it's all about finding which one suits your lifestyle the best. So for some, they do it in the morning just to clear the mind before they start their day, or you can do it in the evening before going to bed for the same reason, to just clear your head a little bit. It could be a daily journal, maybe a weekly one, or just a monthly one. Maybe it could be in the format of morning pages where you just dump all of your thoughts onto a piece of paper and write for several minutes. Or it could be like a bullet journal where you just list a few things. Sometimes I even journal to brainstorm. I always have like different ideas, different plans in my head, and I feel like I can't rest until I just write it down. I just need to write it down so that it's out of my head. Sometimes I use words to describe what I want or what I'm feeling, and sometimes I draw. Very poorly, but I draw what I would like to manifest. So there really are no rules, as you can see. It's all about just doing it. Just finding time, sitting down and writing it all down into a piece of paper. This is why I find that having a set of guide questions sometimes, or trying a specific journaling style, can help you begin, and then eventually finding your own voice once journaling becomes more natural to you. So today, that's what I hope I can do, is I will share with you how I journal. And if you head over to my website after listening to this episode, I have also posted a few journal pages that I created personally so that you can use it too. So right now, what has worked for me is that I usually journal at night. So because my mornings can get pretty hectic and full already, I prefer to now journal in the evening. So what I do is after I've kind of gotten ready for bed and all, I put away my phone, I turn it off if I can, and then I get into bed, set up the mood a little bit so that I'm more relaxed and more prepared for sleep. And then I start with evening pages. So I mentioned earlier about morning pages. This time it's evening pages because I do it at night. So what happens is I just dump all of my thoughts, everything that I'm thinking. It doesn't even have to make sense. It doesn't even have to be a full, complete sentence. I just write down everything that I'm thinking and feeling. And then once I feel like I've already just shared everything, sometimes it'll be like half a page, sometimes it's a full page. It just depends. I don't limit myself for anything. I don't even time myself either, because usually people time themselves when they do these morning or evening pages. And then after that, I write down what worked for me today. And so I list, or sometimes it's just a sentence of what worked for me. And then after that, I move on to what could have worked better. And then again, I talk about that a little bit. And then after that, I focus on what am I grateful for. So again, I don't limit myself on this either. I could write one thing I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's 5 things I'm grateful for. And that's just a really nice way to end the day, just on a good note, like just to look back on the day and remember the good things instead of the bad things. So that really helps me a lot. And then sometimes I also add on, what am I looking forward to tomorrow? If I do this in the morning, if ever there are days I do it earlier in the day, usually it would be, what would I like to feel today? Or what is my goal today, my main goal? And so for this one though, since it's an evening format, evening journal, I usually write, what am I looking forward to tomorrow, so that there's something exciting for me in store for the next day. And then I always end all my journals with thank you, universe. No matter what, thank you, universe. Even if it was a terrible day, I always find a way to end it with gratitude. So this is the journal format that has worked for me for several years already. And I don't always do this every single day, every single night, but I try my best to do it, because there are many times when I feel like I don't have anything to journal because nothing significant happened, and I feel like pretty fine. But then I remind myself that I'll just do it and see. And usually after like a few minutes, I end up writing so much already. So that's kind of the reality of my journaling experience, my journey when it comes to journaling. Now that's kind of my daily journal format. But let's say you want something that's more monthly or weekly, not something very regular. And this is when I kind of focus more on goals. I think that goal setting was the beginning of my journaling journey recently. I know I hate that, but it just makes sense. It is a journey for me. And I remember when I first moved to Iloilo from Manila, when I decided to move here several years ago, I went back into journaling and really journaled every single day. And then I focused on goal setting and using that to journal as well. And the reason why is because I wanted to work on myself. I really wanted to work on myself and improve myself and learn something every single day, and just, I guess, understand myself a little better. And this is where I would put a few goals. I always had these goals every single month and would change them up each month. And then every single day I would try to work on them in some way, in some shape or form, so that at least every day I was a little closer to whatever my goal was. So these categories would be health and fitness goal, a career goal, a financial goal, a relationship goal, learning goal, like something that I can learn or study, personal goal if you have something separate from all the other goals that you really want to work on. It could be more on like self-development, and then a community goal, so something for someone else or for everyone else around you, for your community. So that was kind of the format of my monthly journals. And until today, I kind of go back to that, except I think right now I'm in a place where I'm satisfied and contented with where I am, and I don't feel like I need to focus on big goals yet. So it's more of like focusing on the little things in my life, like the daily habits, the daily things that I'm going through, just because we're in a different place now in the world, the pandemic and everything. And so it just makes me focus on the now because everything is so uncertain and all. So that's kind of where I am. But it's good to have these goals, even if they're very, very small, not like anything too big or grand or anything. So that's kind of how I journal. And so now we're kind of already transitioning to how can we manifest our goals into reality. So this is like the fun part for me because I already set these goals, right, for the month or let's say for the year. And that's always fun to do, just to kind of like look at your future and figure out like, what do I want? Like, what do I actually want in 5 years or in the next year or in 10 years? And then once I kind of list the ideas of like what I want, an excerpt of what I visualize for myself, I then focus on how I want to feel for all these goals that I have, really focusing on how you would feel rather than the goal itself. Sometimes I also ask myself, how would I look like? How would I feel? How would I act, speak, think? What would I wear? Who would be around me? What would I be eating if this was my goal? What would my routine look like in a day if this is my goal? I remember right after college, out of college, and I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do next, where I was headed next, what I wanted in life. I did a lot of this. Like I would just write down and visualize, sometimes even draw, make vision boards of the life that I want. And basically everything that I'm doing now came to be during that time. I started all of that, all of my habits that I do now that are very natural to me during that time. So during that time, I was already visualizing somewhat the life that I'm living now. That was back in 2013. And every single detail that you can imagine, like what my mornings would look like, just so that I would be living the dream life that I imagined for myself. This is what it would look like. This is what it would be like. This is what I would be wearing. This is the kind of role model that I have, that I aspire to be. All of that. And so I focus on like, how would I feel? How would that look? Who would this woman, this version of me be? And so that's what I focus on every single day. And I journaled that. I wrote that down. I would even make it into my wallpaper. Again, vision boards are really helpful. And just like work on that every single day. Every single day, I would slowly curate the dream life into small daily habits that I can do that are manageable. And slowly building these habits so that I can get closer to whatever these goals are. So I know it's probably still a little confusing, but I'll try to give you an example. So back then, I wasn't in Iloilo yet. I didn't have a studio yet. It was just like an idea in my head. And all I kept thinking was, although I'm not sure yet, like if that's even going to happen, I'm going to work on one small task, like breaking down that goal, that dream goal of mine of owning a studio into very small, tiny, bite-sized tasks so that I can do it every single day. And then that would help me get a little closer to whatever my goal is of, teaching or owning a studio. So for example, in that entire day, for my career goal, let's say, I would look up at design ideas, and that was it. That's what I'll do for the day. And once I've accomplished that, I'm done. And then tomorrow, let's say, I'll look up name ideas. And then the next day, let's say logo ideas. And then the next day, draft a schedule. And then the next day, maybe go into a store and just look at flooring, just kind of look around what they have and check out what they have and think about that, a little bit based on the things I've researched already. And then the next day, maybe look online for yoga equipment that I could possibly use. So it not really finishing these tasks, like let's say not actually like buying yoga equipment right then and there, but maybe like looking around first, and then maybe inquiring, and then maybe ordering, or maybe before that budgeting first and like looking at how much money I can shell out, or if I need a little help, financial assistance, maybe talking to whoever can loan me, so stuff like that. Really breaking it down into small bite-sized tasks and then listing that down through my journal, going through the whole process, explaining the whole process, how I feel and all, and then looking back on my journal just to remind myself of what is the main goal and what am I working on in the first place. So I preferred it that way, and that helped me so much more, especially if you're very busy and if you have a day job or you have kids, a family, then that might be more manageable and less intimidating to do. So I do the same for bigger goals, let's say, like for example, a saving fund. I would make it a point to list, let's say, all my expenses per day, and then it may not mean that task that of me listing down my expenses is what will help me save money, but just the fact that I'm keeping track of my money, where it's going, makes it easier for me to also save more money because I see where my money is going. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, like breaking it down, even if it doesn't make sense when you look at it on paper, but if you step back and look at the bigger picture, it all kind of comes together. And so that made it more manageable for me. And that was how I was able to kind of link journaling and manifesting these goals into reality. For example, another example would be, let's say you want to renovate your house. Maybe today it'll just be you sitting down and just lay out what changes you want to make to your house first. And then tomorrow, maybe you'll look for pegs online. Maybe the next day you'll try to contact a contractor or an architect just to talk about it. Maybe you'll set up a meeting, a Zoom meeting or a quick lunch meeting with them just to, again, explain what you want, and so that they have an idea and you have an idea of what's going to happen and how it's going to work. And so just, again, breaking it down to as small a piece as you can just so that it's more manageable and at least you're doing something every day. So as you do this, again, journal what you want to accomplish for the day. So something like this, I would say it's better to do it in the morning at the top of your day so that you're kind of prepared that this is my goal today, this is what I'm going to work on. And then maybe at the end of the day, what have you accomplished? Maybe track the entire process, and then using that again as a reminder of what it is you envisioned for yourself in the first place, what it is you're working on in the first place. So kind of going back to your purpose. So journaling is an accessible way, basically, to help us get in touch with our deeper selves underneath all the layers of the ego. It encourages us to be vulnerable, but to use that vulnerability to grow and learn at the same time, and to step out of our comfort zones through these goals that we set for ourselves. When we write down our thoughts and goals, you see, this is already the beginning of manifesting it into reality. Because if it's just in your head, it's not actually like real, because it's just a thought, it's just an idea. But when you put it into words, or when you draw it into a piece of paper, or when you create like an image that you can look at every single day, it slowly becomes real. Like right then and there, it's something that's real. It's not just an idea, it's not just in your head anymore. And that's where the power comes from. That's already the first step to making it something real. And as you continue on in your life, writing down what you have learned every day in this journey helps us understand better what is unfolding in our lives. It helps us kind of experience it in a more real way and in a more mindful manner too. And going back to that quote I shared earlier, we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on that experience, making our goals become more intentional in the long run. So good luck on your journaling journey, and I wish you all the best in manifesting your goals to reality. So as a summary, what is journaling? It's basically the practice of writing your thoughts and feelings for the purpose of self-analysis, self-discovery, and self-reflection. Why should we journal? We do not learn from the experience, we learn from reflecting on that experience, and journaling helps us process these experiences. How can you journal? There are so many ways of journaling. It's all about finding what works best for you based on your lifestyle. And lastly, how can you manifest your goals into reality? Write down how you would like to feel whenever you achieve these goals. How would you like to look like? How would you like to act? Really visualize how you would like to achieve these goals, and then write it down, track your progress, track the whole process, the whole journey. Try to break it down into small bite-sized pieces so it's easier for you to do every single day, and write that at the beginning of your day as a reminder of what you're working on and why you're doing this in the first place. So again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this episode. I hope you learned so much from this podcast, and I hope that you begin your journey and share that journey with me online through @Ilongga Yogi on Instagram, Facebook, on my website, ilonggayogi.com, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and bye!